Matter 2.3 Chemical Properties. Gasoline is a fuel that's burned in automobiles, and the chemical property that paper and gasoline share is flammability, especially in the starting of a fire. Sometimes flammability is not desirable. And so in those cases, such as in the making of children's clothes, especially children's pajamas, we would want something called fire retardant textiles, and that's because it reduces the flammability of the materials in case kids are in their beds sleeping when a fire breaks out, to help keep the child safe. The property that describes how readily a substance combines chemically with other substances is its reactivity. Nitrogen and oxygen are the main gases in the air. Oxygen is highly reactive as an element. Nitrogen has an extremely low reactivity. So in this case, it's talking about in your textbook rust, that oxygen reacts with iron and water to cause rust, which makes the metals more brittle. It also talks about reducing the amount of rust that can be produced by pumping nitrogen gas into the tanks, and nitrogen displaces dissolved oxygen in submerged barrels under a ship. Indicators of chemical change include a change in the color, production of gas, and formation of precipitate. In the pictures, you'll notice the green, firm bananas hanging on the tree in the first picture change to a light yellow when they're removed from the tree and start to ripen. Next, we see them on the shelf at the grocery store where they have little brown spots on them that we call freckled bananas. That indicates that the production of gas, one, has occurred, and that means that it'll ripen other bananas nearby. And two, that the sugar content is actually higher, which is not included in our chemical changes to view, but we know is present. For instance, if you wait until your bananas are dark brown, those would be most desirable for the making of banana bread because it has the highest sugar content. For a change in color, over time a shiny silver bracelet that's exposed to the air darkens. As a match burns, it shrivels and turns black. Then in our textbook, it talks about a new copper roof versus an old one, which would be starting as copper, and eventually over time the corrosion that causes patina turns the copper green. For the production of gas, when you mix vinegar with baking soda, bubbles of carbon dioxide form immediately. Baking powder in a mixture to bake a cake also causes bubbles of carbon dioxide to expand, and that is what makes the cake rise. For the formation of a precipitate, another chemical change that you can observe in the kitchen is the curdling of milk. If you add lemon juice or vinegar to your milk, old school, that's the way to make buttermilk. I will never pay for buttermilk because you can make it yourself. But we know that in time it also curdles, or if you leave milk out, it will curdle it, and that causes chunks in your milk, which is not good. But that is a precipitate. Is a change chemical or physical? It's not always easy to distinguish whether a chemical change or a physical change has occurred. Even if you observe a color change, a gas, or a precipitate, you cannot be sure that a chemical change has actually taken place. When water boils on the stove, the bubbles of gas that rise to the surface are still water. Before you decide whether or not a chemical change has occurred, ask yourself this question. Are different substances present after the change has taken place? If not, the change is physical, not chemical. For the 2.3 assessment, you have questions in the text, and that would be on page 58. We are not including number 8 in this version. So 1 through 7 on this slide would be the same as what is in your textbook. Under what conditions can chemical properties be observed? List 3 common types of evidence for chemical change. How do chemical changes differ from physical changes? Explain why the rusting of an iron bar decreases the strength of the bar. Number 5, a pat of butter melts and then burns in a hot frying pan. Which of these changes is physical and which is chemical? Number 6, compare the properties of a raw egg to those of a hard-boiled egg. And number 7, you spilled bleach on your blue jeans. Next, you see that the blue denim color that was present is now white where you spilled. Is this chemical or physical change? Explain your reasoning. Please handwrite those and turn them in